Hi, welcome to Audiobook Academy. This is a self-paced audiobook. There's no need to keep an eye on things. Just pay attention. Thank you for taking the time to listen. This is an audiobook summary of The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lesson on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness by Morgan Housel. Money is everywhere, it affects all of us and perplexes the majority of us. Both of us, everyone has a different perspective on it. It provides lessons on topics that apply to many aspects of life, such as risk, self-assurance, and happiness. Few topics provide a more potent, a magnifying glass that explains why people behave the way they do. They do it for the sake of money, not the other way around. We all do crazy things with money because we're all relatively wealthy. I'm new to this game, and what appears crazy to you may turn out to be a good idea. It makes sense to me. But no one is insane. We all make choices based on our own distinct experiences that appear to make sense to us at any given time. Risk and luck. None of it is as good or as bad as it seems. Risk and chance are twins. They are both manifestations of reality. Every outcome in life is influenced by forces other than one's own personal effort. Some people are born into families that value education. Others are opposed to education. Some people are born into it. Thriving economies that encourage entrepreneurship. Others are born into a life of war and poverty. I'd like you to be. I want you to be successful, and I want you to earn it. However, keep in mind that not all poverty is caused by lack of effort, and not all success is due to lack of effort. Laziness. Keep this in mind when passing judgment on others, including yourself. As a result, concentrate less on specific individuals and cases, studies, as well as more on broad patterns. Not enough. When rich people do outrageous things, there is no reason to jeopardize what you have and require for what you don't have it and you don't need it. It's one of those things that is both obvious and overlooked. Few of us will ever have $100 million, as Gupta all Madoff did. However, a sizable proportion of those who read this book will earn a salary or have a sum of money at some point in their lives. A sum of money sufficient to cover all reasonable expenses. They have everything they need and a lot of what they want. Remember a few things if you're one of them. 1. Getting the goalpost is the most difficult financial skill to master, to come to a halt. 2. The issue here is one of social comparison. 3. Enough is not insufficient. 4. There are many things that are never worth taking a chance on, regardless of the potential gain. A good reputation is priceless. Independence and freedom are priceless. Family and friends are priceless. It's wonderful to be loved by those you want to love you. Invaluable. Happiness is priceless. Compounding. Co-founding. The practical takeaway is that the seemingly contradictory nature of the majority of problems could be attributed to compounding. Trades that were disappointing, strategies that were ineffective, and trades that were successful. Attempts at investing. You can't blame people for putting in their all effort in what they learn and what they do in order to obtain the highest investment yields. It appears to be the best option, a way to become wealthy. However, good investing isn't always about making money. Highest returns, because the highest returns are usually one-time events that cannot be repeated. It's all about making a lot of money. Good returns that you can rely on and that can be repeated for the longest possible time. This is when compounding is out of control. The inverse of this is earning enormous returns that cannot be replicated. Clung to leads to some tragic tales. Getting wealthy vs. remaining wealthy. Making good decisions isn't always necessary for good investing. It is all about not making mistakes on a regular basis. Having an edge and surviving are two distinct things. The first necessitates the second. It is necessary to avoid ruin at any cost. It all comes down to applying the survival mindset in the real world. To be grateful for 3 things. 1. I want to be respected more than I want to make a lot of money. Unbreakable financially, and if I'm unbreakable, I'll be able to. I actually believe I'll make the most money because I'll be able to stay for a long enough period of time for compounding to perform miracles. 2. Planning is essential, but the most important aspect is every plan should be designed with the possibility of the plan failing according to schedule. 3. A chiseled personality, optimistic about the future, but are concerned about what will prevent you from doing so. Getting to the future is vital. You can be incorrect 50% of the time and still make a fortune. I've been working on this thing for 30 years. I believe the simple math is that some projects succeed while others fail. There's no reason to dwell on either. Just get to the point. Next. Brad Pitt accepts a Screen Actors Guild Award. What matters isn't whether you're right or wrong. but how much money you make. George Soros once said, when you are correct, and how much you lose when you are incorrect. You can be wrong half the time and still make a mistake. Fortune, freedom, controlling your time yields the highest return on investment. The ability to wake up every day is the highest form of wealth. I can do whatever I want today, you say in the morning. People want to get richer in order to be happier. Because everyone's definition of happiness is different, it's a difficult topic to discuss. Different. However, if there is a common denominator in happiness, it is a universal source of joy. It is that people wish to exert control over their very lives. The freedom to do what you want, when you want, and with whom you want. It is priceless to be able to do whatever you want for as long as you want. It's the money pays the highest dividend. Money's greatest intrinsic value, and this cannot be overstated, is its ability to give you control over your time cannot be overstated. Increasing one's independence and autonomy one step at a time. That results from unspent assets that provide you with more control over what you are allowed to do and when you are allowed to do it. Take it from those who have been through it all. Controlling your time yields the highest return on investment. Paradox of the man in the car. Nobody is as taken with your possessions as you are. My point is not to give up on the pursuit of wealth. Or even flashy automobiles. Both appeal to me. It's a subtle acknowledgement that most people aspire to be. Others respect and admire you, and you use money to buy. It's possible that fancy things will bring you less of it than you think. In terms of deference, if you want to gain respect and admiration, you must be careful how you go about it. More respect will come your way if you are humble, kind, and empathic than horsepower will ever be. We're not done with Ferris yet. Weakness is what you can't see. Spending money to show people how much money you have is the worst thing you can do. The quickest way to have less money. Money is full of ironies. Here's an important one. Money isn't everything. What you don't notice. There are many people in the world who appear modest but are not. People who are actually wealthy, and people who appear to be wealthy who live at the precipice of insolvency. Keep this in mind when you're in a hurry, assessing the success of others and setting your own goals. What good is wealth if you don't spend it? So, let's get started. Let me persuade you to save money. Save your money. One of the results is generated by the only factor over which you have control. The only things that matter. That's fantastic. The first concept, which is simple but easily overlooked, is that building wealth has little to do with your income or your level of education. Investment returns, as well as a variety of things to do with your savings rate. Wealth is simply the amount of money that remains after you have spent it. What you are exposed to, and because you can amass wealth without a formal education, high income but no chance of accumulating wealth. It's clear which one is more important, a high savings rate or a low savings rate. After a certain level of income, all you need is what lies beneath your ego. People who have long-term financial success, not those with high incomes, are more likely to have a proclivity to be unconcerned about what others think them. As a result, people's ability to save is more in their hands than they may believe. Spending less can result in savings. You can spend less if you want to, and you will desire less if you are less concerned with what others think. Consider yourself, and you don't need a reason to save. Savings without a spending goal provides you with options. Flexibility, the ability to wait, and the ability to pounce are all important. It allows you to think. It enables you to alter your course of action on their own terms. That freedom and control over your time is invaluable. Unanticipated return on wealth. When you don't have control over your time, you're forced to do things that you don't want to do. To accept whatever bad luck comes your way. However, if you have the time to wait for a no-brainer. If you are flexible, chances will fall into your lap. This is a hidden return on investment. Your financial resources. Having more control over your time and options is becoming increasingly important. One of the world's most valuable currencies. That is why more people can and should save money. Reasonable and rational. Trying to be mostly reasonable is preferable to trying to be coldly rational. You're not a formula. You have a personality. An erroneous, a sensitive individual. It brings with it something that is frequently overlooked. Do not, when making financial decisions, strive to be coldly rational. Aim to be fairly reasonable. Reasonable is preferable. Realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it for the long haul. In the long run, which is most important when managing money. There are several other occasions when it is acceptable to be late. Reasonable as opposed to logical, when it comes to money. Surprise. Ironically, history is the study of change. Used to create a future map. When you rely on something too heavily, two dangerous things happen. Investment history can be used to predict what will happen in the future. Next. 1. You most likely miss the outlier events that move the needle. The most needle. 2. History can be a deceptive predictor of the future. Because it has no effect on the economy or the stock market. Take into account structural changes that are relevant to, in today's world, aerospace is available. The most important aspect of any strategy is working on your plan. Things aren't going as planned. A single point of failure with money is the most common. Reliance on a paycheck to meet short-term spending requirements. With no savings to bridge the gap between what you believe, what your current expenses are and what they might be in the future. Predicting what you'll do with your savings is based on the assumption that you live in a world where you can predict your future. Expenses will be incurred which no one anticipates. I'm a big saver and I have a lot of money. I'm not sure what I'll do with the savings in the future. Few financial plans that only plan for known risks have failed. A sufficient margin of safety to survive in the real world. In fact, planning is the most important aspect of any plan. Your plan is not going as planned. Long-term planning is more difficult than it appears. Because people's desires and goals change over time, we should stay away from the extremes of the financial spectrum. Planning, assuming you'll be content with a low income or choosing to work incessantly in pursuit of a high one, increases the likelihood that you've reached a point of regret. The ends fuel. People adapt to most aspects of history illusion. As a result, the advantages of an extreme plan, the simplicity of having little or the thrill of having a lot, a feeling of having almost everything wear off. However, the disadvantages of those extremes, being unable to afford retirement or reflect on a life well lived, devoted to the pursuit of money, become enduring. Regrets are especially painful when they are unresolved. Abandon a previous plan and feel compelled to flee in the opposite direction twice as fast to compensate. Time was lost. We must also come to terms with the reality of we're changing our minds. Some of the most depressing workers I've met are people who are devoted to their jobs, career solely because it is the field they chose when they were younger. Choosing a college major at the age of 18 when you're accepting the end of history illusion, you realize the chances of choosing a job when you are not old enough to drink that you will enjoy even when you are old. The chances of earning enough to qualify for Social Security are slim. Embracing the idea that financial goals set when you were younger are more likely to be met when you are older. If a different person were to be abandoned mercilessly versus being put on life support and dragged on, can be a good choice. Strategy to reduce future regret. The sooner you complete it, the sooner you can return to your work. Compounding. Everything has a price, but not all of them are listed on the label. Everything has a cost, and the key to many things is money is simply determining what that price is and being willing to pay it. Willing to pay for it. The issue is that the cost of many items is not readily apparent until you've had first-hand experience with them. When the bill is overdue, you and I both be wary of taking financial cues from others, people who are playing a different game than you. This may appear quaint, but once you've written that mission, when you write your statement down, you realize everything that isn't related to it. What the market did this year, or whether or not we'll have a recession. The possibility of a recession next year is part of the game I'm not willing to play. As a result, I'm not paying attention to it, and I'm not in any danger of being caught up in it. It has persuaded me. The word optimism sounds like a sales pitch. Pessimism sounds like someone attempting to assist you. People like to hear, for reasons I've never understood, that world is on its way to hell. Deirdre McCloskey is a historian. For most people, optimism is the best bet because the world is improving. Most people's lives improve most of the time. However, pessimism has a special place in our hearts. Pessimism is not simply more prevalent than optimism. It is also sounds more intelligent, it's intellectually stimulating, and it's profitable. More than optimism, which is frequently misunderstood. Being unconcerned about danger. Another issue is that pessimists frequently extrapolate from the present trends without taking into account how markets adapt. Another issue is that progress is too slow to be noticed. However, setbacks occur far too frequently to be ignored. Expecting the best means preparing for the worst case scenario. That's a little flat. Pessimism lowers expectations, making them narrower. The difference between possible outcomes and the outcomes you prefer fantastic about. Maybe that's why it's so appealing. Expecting things to be different. When they're bad, it's the best way to be pleasantly surprised. Not fictions that are appealing, and why stories are more powerful than statistics. There are two things to keep in mind on a personal level. When it comes to money management, think about a story-driven world. 1. The more you want something to be true, the more you want it to be true. You are more likely to believe a story that exaggerates the chances of it being true. 2. Everyone has a skewed perspective on the world. But, to fill in the gaps, we create a complete narrative. The one who is certain he understands what is going on, based on what he sees, but turns out to be completely incorrect, because he can't know what's going on inside everyone's heads. Someone else's head. What we've discovered about the psychology of money. You should enjoy taking risks because they pay off in the long run. But, you should be concerned about the possibility of ruinous risk because it prevents you from taking profitable risks in the future. In the long run, define the game you're playing and make sure you're on the right track. People who play a role have no influence on the actions of others. A distinct game. Respect the shambles. Intelligent, well-informed, and reasonable. People can disagree in finance because people have different perspectives. Goals and desires are vastly different. There is no solitary. The only correct answer is the one that works for you. My own money's psychology. I'm confident that no matter how we save or invest, we'll always have enough. The goal of independence, and we'll always do whatever it takes to get there, maximizes the chances of a good night's sleep. We think it's the ultimate goal, the mastery of the psychology of money. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Please don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. See you in next audiobook.